So thank you everyone for taking the time out to attend this webinar. I'm just going to do a quick round of introductions and then we'll jump straight into it, as we know you're all very busy. So I will just work through the names on the screen. Brendan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Brendan Delaney, GP partner 1 day a week and chair in medical informatics and decision making at Imperial the rest of the time, and I'm co-chief investigator of the RECAP study with Trish Green Health.
Thank you. Simon?
Hi, I'm sorry to be split on 2 screens, but I'm Simon Delignon. I'm also a GP and Professor of Primary Care at University of Oxford. I also look after the Royal College of GPs Research and Surveillance Centre, and we're a very enthusiastic contributor to this study.
Thank you, Simon. And then we also have Sarah Warren.
Yeah, hi there. I'm Sarah Warren, Head of Development at Ardens for EMIS Web. So I'll just take you through the template today.
And then we also have Liba.
Hi everyone, I'm Liba. I'm part of Trish Greenhall's team and I work with Alex and Anna on some of the recap logistics.
Thank you. And then my name's Alex. I am a research facilitator at the RCGP RSC, and I also have with me my colleague Jack, who is also working on the study. Jack, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi there. Hi there, I'm Jack. I'm a research facilitator for the PLO team, and I work with Alex and Simon.
Great, thank you. So jumping straight into it, this session we are going to give you an introduction or a reintroduction to RECAP, a brief outline of the RSC for those of you that aren't currently involved, and then I'm going to talk you through the process that all practices need to go through to get set up and to successfully complete this study in your practice. And then we've also got a template demonstration from Ardens, and then we will host an open Q&A. So I'm going to hand over to Brendan now to give us a brief outline of the study for those of you who are new.
Okay, well, I'll give a slight update as well, in the sense for those who are familiar, so it won't be completely new. So what RECAP aims to do is to produce a validated score that GPs can use live during the consultation, a remote consultation for people presenting with acute COVID, to assess their current risk of hospital admission based on their symptoms and other observable data that you can get from the patient. The idea is to take information that you could be gathering from a patient and putting down as a chunk of text, but to put it into a template with underlying SNOMED codes that we can extract through the usual RSC mechanisms, link up with external data from hospital episode statistics and Office of National Statistics.
Sorry, can whoever's just joined please put themselves on mute? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, if you could put yourself on mute, it's very difficult to talk without going on. So we can produce a statistical model to predict primarily risk of hospital, secondarily ICU admission and death. We need 2,870 patients in order to produce the statistical model and to validate it. We're actually going to do that in 2 halves. The first half of the data, which we think just got patients. Simon, why don't you mute all, and then I'll just unmute myself. Right, good. That's a bit quieter. Excellent. So we think we're about halfway. It's a think because actually in both places where we're doing this study, through the RSC and in practice in Northwest London, it takes a bit of time to get the data extractions through from practices and make sure they're complete, etc. But our estimate is about halfway, which is sufficient to build the model statistically, which we will be doing during February. So what we're doing now is collecting the data set which we will use to validate the model. So the way that these risk scores are built is you get data set of all your parameters, and you have an outcome measure, and you build a regression model that predicts that outcome measure and make it fit nicely to produce a predictor. You then produce cut points for medium and high risk. So you've got your red, amber, green rating. And then you go to another set of data and you check to see if that model is valid in its prediction, because you can overfit models and you need to be certain you haven't overfitted it. And at that point, it's then validated. We know how the model performs, and we can turn your templates into live scores, rather like you get a Q risk or a Q COVID currently. But the difference between this and Q COVID only tells you what the patient's baseline is. Existing information about risk factors it's not influenced by their oxygen saturation, pulse rate, any new presenting features, and that's what RECAP is collecting in order to do that. It's going to be extremely useful in hot hubs, but also any practice managing acute COVID patients. We're very excited about the project. We think it's going really well, but we need that last push to get us up to the numbers. So particularly at the moment where we're unfortunately in a peak of another wave, it's really important that we get those numbers up with patients. So we'll be focusing a bit on using templates, etc. later on. So enough of the study for now. Happy to ask the questions later on.
Brilliant, thank you for that, Brendan. I'm having a few technical difficulties, so I don't know if my screen is still sharing. I really hope it is. So I'm going to pass over to Simon now, and can I just ask those that have just joined to mute again, or for somebody to do a mute all. So I'm going to pass over to Simon now, who's going to give us a brief introduction to the RSC.
Marvellous. Just need to unmute myself, and I'm sorry to be on one screen and one other device for video. But anyway, the Royal College of GPs Research and Surveillance Centre is one of Europe's oldest surveillance systems. The map on displayed shows the coverage. We like to think of ourselves as a bottom-up, professionally led network. Now of over 1,800 practices and a represented population of over 15 million people. And what differentiates our network from others is that our practices do a lot of sampling, and we know who the practices are in the network. So we have practices who are doing virological samples and have collected, I think it's something like 6,000 samples. This year, for the first time at scale, we're collecting serology samples about people's background immunity to COVID. And I think we've now collected something like 34,000 samples in primary care, which informs a lot when you hear things said about the background rate of immunity. And now this is greater in conurbations that is often coming from the sampling that we are collecting. And we're obviously a venue for studies, and RECAP is a really important study. As Brendan has alluded to, we are in a second wave of COVID, and although we're beginning to see a flattening of the community instance, it's by no means dying away. And we also know from the rising mortality at present that when people are ill in secondary care with COVID, it's for some weeks, and many of our institutions are quite full, and that this is likely to go on for some time. I, for example, in the first wave, had one of my patients was on a ventilator for 8 weeks. So there's never been a sort of better time to need RECAP and really go for our recruiting. I think my count this morning, we were a smidgen under 1,000, 957 or something, which is fantastic. If there are practices on the call interested in RSC, contact Alex or me or any of the team. And where practices join the network, we ask them to share data with us for what we call SQUIRE purposes. So S for surveillance, QI for quality improvement, R for research, and E for education. And this study fits nicely in the research category. And so we just use data for those purposes. We don't license or sell data to other people, but we have got a big portfolio of projects that we're actively engaged in, and we're increasingly using as Oxford has made a substantial investment into the network. We talk about ourselves a little bit under this ORCID, as you see in the address there, for that standing the Oxford Royal College of GPs Clinical Informatics Digital Hub. The letter's not quite in the right order for the acronym. But anyway, that's an intro to the network, and again, happy to answer questions, particularly in the context of how we can support this project.
Brilliant, thank you, Simon. Yes, as Simon says, the network is an absolutely brilliant national resource, and if any of you are interested in joining the network or want to know more, please do contact myself or the practice liaison team at practiceinquiries.phc.ox.ac.uk. My colleague Jack will pop that in the chat for you now. So just very quickly, for those of you that are interested in taking part or already participating, these are the outline of the steps that you need to take. So first off, you will need to submit an expression of interest via our website, which we linked in the previous page and will be linked at the end of this slideshow. Once we've gotten your expression of interest, we will check that you are a member of the RSC and that your practice is eligible to take part, so that you are in fact a TPP or a EMIS practice. And once we've checked all of that, your practice will be sent an acceptance email and instructions on how to download and activate the template. These emails will be sent from LIBA, so please do keep an eye on your inboxes and check your junk folder if you think you haven't received a green light email. If you have any questions at this point, just contact the team and we can guide you. And then you can download the template, and as soon as that template is downloaded, you can start recruiting patients using the template. In parallel to this, you will also receive information from your CRN. Once you've been greenlit into the study, the CRN will provide you with a OID, which we just ask you to fill in, sign, and return to the both the CRN and either myself or LIBA at the study team. Recruitment can start ahead of this OID being completed, but please note that this OID will be required before any payments can be completed. So with that in mind, I will hand over to Sarah, who will give us a walkthrough of how to use the template.
Thank you. I'm just not sure with the software how to share my screen. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's fine. If you could just send me a request, because I can't see your name on the list.
Unmuted.
How do I? I'm really sorry.
So the middle, yeah, go. Sarah Warren is the new presenter.
I think I've done it and sent it to you. We have a little presenter request.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I've just got to go through my preferences and my system. Bear with me.
I think we just lost and regained Sarah. So for the sake of time, at this point in time, does anybody have any queries about the study in general or any questions for the team? If you could just pop those in the chat, we can start working through those now whilst we get Sarah set up on showing us the template.
So it's telling me that I am sharing my screen now. I don't know that that's the case though, is it?
I'll be patient for a couple of seconds. It may come through.
It's telling me I'm presenter.
You're listed as presenter, but you're not currently presenting.
I'm really sorry. What do I need to? It's not. I'm sorry. what do I need to do to? It's waiting to view my screen. So can you resend the invitation, Alex? Because I think because I had to come off, I had to come back on again. It may have got lost somewhere.
No problem, Simon. Can you? Someone's just made me the presenter. Simon, can you please send that through to Sarah? Quickly to answer the question in the chat, practice has asked if there was a search to show the amount of patients that have been recruited using the template. So yes, there is. If you search your clinical system for the CPMS code that you enter with every single patient, this will bring up every patient that you've recruited into the study. And we are now seeing Sarah's screen, so I will pass over to Sarah to walk us through the template.
Brilliant. So I've omitted the step at the beginning about launching the template, but hopefully anyone using a template will be familiar with doing that. Now I will look for any support, please, from Brendan in terms of any clinical content, because I'm not clinical, but I can walk through the template as it stands. All the pages, all the codes that are required are captured in various pages. For example, if you're doing a remote clinical assessment, it has the relevant required sections in there, type of assessment that you're doing. It highlights the red flags. You can obviously indicate if the symptoms are severe, if there's a red flag there. Consenting for the recap studies, if the patient consents, is obviously the really important bit to ensure that you complete. Choosing the drop down there and then copying the ID into the box. Just literally just copying it in there will ensure that the consent for the study is recorded accurately. So all the pages include information for the study, but if people are just wanting to do a brief study-based consultation, then it's all brought together in the brief assessment page, and you can go through. It's literally just got the required elements within the template. And Brendan, I ask you, is there anything you would like me particularly to highlight within the template that you're keen that people should know about or be aware of?
Yes. Do you want to scroll back to the top of the brief assessment page there? Yeah. So I think we've got symptom very severe. That's basically if you've got a patient on the thing who clearly needs a 999 ambulance or immediate admission, then these are map onto the News 2 criteria. So you can click symptom very severe and just stop at that point and sort that out. So scrolling down next, very important you put the number in, the 45890 in that box, because that enables us to tag all the things and acts as counts for CRN, enables us to extract and link the data, enables you to do searches to find out which patients have come through, and enters the patient into the study. If you don't put that number in, they're not in the study. So they're not in and no one gets paid or anything like that. So that's really important. The rest of it, if you go down here, data, it's fairly straightforward. If you want to click the first one, ask about temperature, fever, rigors. If you just click the drop, yes, you see all of these have categories which we've very carefully worked through using a Delphi process with a group of GPs, and you just select the appropriate one from the drop-down box behind those, and there's a SNOMED code supporting each of these categories. Some of them are just present or absent. If you do the next one, fatigue, for example, that's just got 3 categories, so not tired on there. Myalgia is just a yes, no. Cognitive decline is sort of, issues of thinking, which is quite common things. Then breathlessness, it's a subjective assessment there. Okay, complete sentences, yes, no. Trajectory of breathlessness is a particular thing for recap that we're interested in, so the same or deteriorating. I think that might be quite predictive. Bringing it down, COVID-19 risk category, that's the same as the shielding list. The observations, these
is it worth just saying, sorry Brendan, is it just worth saying that obviously previous indications are recorded, or previous coded entries are recorded on the right hand side here, obviously, so that if you're seeing that actually that previously they were not tired but actually now there's fatigue, then it's important to make sure you're recording any change in them if that's relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. Often with a first consultation there won't be any previous things in there. Indeed. Now the observations, these are if they're available, so it's if possible. So often patients do have a thermometer, quite often they do have a SATS probe, and we ask for them to do a 40-step SATS Pro test on those. Pulse rate's measurable. Obviously, you can't count your own respiratory rate, and this really depends on whether you're doing a video consultation or you can find some way of doing it otherwise. If you can't, leave it blank. And then if you click on the decision and action down there, severity category. Okay, this is your current clinical assessment. It's not actually part of the recap score, but it's important for completeness of record keeping and management and things for doing that in the practice. So I think that's probably as much as I want to say from the clinical point of view, and we need to perhaps move on to questions, unless there's anything else that Sarah wants to add.
No, I think that was it. It was just really just that was it, and thank you for your support in that.